All right, so I was at a small business across the street from my house a little while ago, and I looked at the woman that was working there and I told her I don't want to go back to work after being on vacation for a few days. And I told her it felt unnatural to have to go back to a place that you don't like. And she said, and this is the God honest truth, she said, my daughter says the same thing every morning when I wake her up because she has to get up early to go to school that she doesn't want to go. It seems like at some point, human beings from a very young age sense the danger built right into this system. All we really want at the end of the day is money and to be comfortable. No one wants to spend the first, 12 years of your life in public school, then spend another 4 to 8 years at university, only to come out to work in retail. And it's not just young people failing, it's people across the board. I just finished watching The Epic Economist and I don't know what to say. It's like everyone out there who's not rich has come to the conclusion that their situation is impossible. The hikes in the cost of living are too high for the average person to absorb them. When Fox News has to come out and tell people that they need $150,000 to be okay, and to know that you will never make that kind of money ever because you're stuck down here where the wages that corporations are comfortable paying are not the wages we need, but the wages that we can get. And that just breaks you at some point during the day or while you wake up at night in the middle of the night because you can't sleep because you're worried about money. You know you just got paid Friday, but that paycheck isn't there anymore. It's gone. The second it hits your bank account, tomorrow, what comes out? Credit cards, rent, car payment, insurance. It's all gone. Just like that. Again, the fart in the wind. You smell a hint of it. You know it's your own flavor. But before you have a chance at taking a second sniff of it, it's gone. And that's life for the proletariat. Life is slipping away from all of us. No one seems to care that things are this bad for the lower tier of society. And it's creeping up past the middle class and starting to reach the lower levels of the upper class. Because if you're making $140,000 right now and you're still budgeting like a person who's trying to save themselves from the executioner, things are seriously wrong out there. All right, so I've got three talking points, all taken from the Epic Economist today. Rewritten, nothing is a direct quote. This is just the way that ChatGPT saw that video, the transcript for that video. Also, if you hadn't heard this, ChatGPT is going to be bringing ads to their site, just like anything else. I mean, to me, it is really odd to see ads while you're shopping at Amazon for something that you're not interested in. Why should there be an ad for a credit card while you're shopping on Amazon? It doesn't make any sense other than greed has no shame. Some nights I lie awake wondering if I'm depressed or just broke. And then I do the math and remember that mental illness is cheaper than rent. So the diagnosis doesn't matter either way. If you're not depressed right now, I don't know what you're smoking, but for the vast majority of people out there, not being able to pay your bills is the ultimate source of depression. It causes you to be anxious, it causes you to not be able to do anything. You're paranoid about it. Everyone's wondering whether or not they're going to be able to keep their jobs through the end of the year because almost every video that I've watched of the Epic Economist in the last few weeks shows that there are going to be major layoffs before Christmas. And we've already seen what Amazon did to their workers. 30,000 people losing their jobs isn't easy. Losing a million people, a million jobs in less than a year, that's not something that's negotiable. And finding that job, finding that job that gives you a little peace of mind, well, it's not on Indeed. I don't know where it is. When you scan the want ads for jobs every day, you see that there's a particular pattern. None of these are good jobs. None of these jobs are something that you'd want. There's nothing out there for the regular person. And I made a video about this earlier this morning, but we've come to a point in our job economy where there are people who are going to be permanently temporary workers for the rest of their lives. They're going to be bouncing around from one crap job to another, never being able to touch the real job. And it's not because of aptitude for being able to do jobs, it's the fact that they're disappearing in mass. You can't rely on one source of income in order to pay your bills. You've got to be diversified. And the worst part about that is that if you're working at Walmart and they find out that you're also working at Amazon, they'll fire you on the spot. It's like they don't care whether or not you can support yourself on one job, but if they find out that you have a second job, and that means that you're going to have to close your schedule and work regular hours, you're gone. That's what I was told at every single retail job. If you don't have open availability, you're going to get one 4-hour shift on the weekend and occasionally another shift, because they depend on people to have open availability so they can call you in when someone doesn't show up at night, or have you force you to work in the fuel center. Like I just saw one of the girls from Kroger's working in the fuel center, and I mean, she's doing everything. She works as a cashier. She does the home pickup. She does the customer service counter. I've seen her stocking. Like, this girl does every position in the store. And guess what? She's getting paid minimum wage. Why? Because she's still in high school. And that's the worker that these corporations think that everyone is still in high school, and that's why they can treat you like a child. And it's not the way that things should be. Everything that could possibly be wrong in our society is wrong right now. Inflation is out of control, and wages will never come up to give the average person a comfortable living intentionally. Talking point number 2. I'm not lonely because I don't have friends. I'm lonely because all my friends are working overtime to afford the same basic crummy life that's slipping through my fingers, too. All your friends are broke. They can't go do anything because they're working a second job, or they simply can't afford to go do anything because everything has gotten so expensive. Going out to eat anywhere is a minimum of $40 to $50, and that includes McDonald's. That's actually something a woman said in one of the clips from the Epic Economist yesterday. She took her 2 kids out to eat McDonald's last week, and the bill was $50. And I'm not even going to bat an eye at that. I mean, I've gotten to the point where today I bought pasta, I bought hummus, and I bought one other thing. And I'm going to start just preparing all my meals at home. Even if I don't like it, at least if I make it at home and I have to throw it away because it tastes like crap, I'm not out 15 to 20 bucks, because I don't like any of the food that's out there. And I'm a person that has to go out to eat lunch every day because I don't have time in the morning to make something to eat every day for lunch. Besides, I also need a break from sometimes the very hectic nature of my type of work. Sometimes it's one crazy emergency after another, after another. And as a manager told me 4 years ago, when everything is an emergency, nothing is an emergency. And so you're stressed out of your mind a lot of the day. And no matter how you try to distract yourself from that stress, it seeps into everything. When you are in a state where you can't stop thinking about work because it's so chaotic and they're always running on a skeleton crew in a place that should have 5 people to help in one position, they make one person do that job. They're offering more work for less money. That's become normalized. Oh, you want a job? Well, guess what? It's not just one job. We got rid of all of these people, and the person that they had that had to take over all of those different jobs, well, rather than be exploited to the nth degree, they left. And every person that they hire back into that position to try to do all those other jobs is going to look at it and be like, you want me to do the job of 5 people for $16 an hour or minimum wage in some cases? I mean, there are places in this country that still offer a $7.25 federal minimum wage. They want more work for less money. And it comes down to that. The reason we all know why this is happening is corporate greed is out of control, and it has been. It's been getting worse because when you look at them and they slide you over an offer letter and you look at it and you're like, you want me to have all of these qualifications on paper, 3 to 5 years of experience, and you're going to pay me the same amount that a person that's still in high school is making? What's wrong with you? And they just look at you, and this is what I've been told in many job interviews. If you won't do it, we will find someone who will. Someone who will work full-time for $25,000 a year, be on call, and do everything outside of this job that they require. If you won't do it, there's some sucker out there that's in a worse spot than you are. Imagine being a 50-year-old man right now who's got laid off from your job that you've been in a long time. Your kids are still hungry. Your wife doesn't make as much money as you used to, and she's the only one bringing in a paycheck. I saw that with my friend last year, Charlotte. Her husband lost her good sales manager job out of the blue. She was working part-time in a salon, probably making $15 an hour, and she somehow had to support the family for months like that. Of course, they were getting additional financial help from both of their parents because they had all these kids that they couldn't afford anymore. And that's kind of also something I've heard from people that have kids, is they regret having children. I've heard this from both married and single moms for years now. They regret becoming single moms. And I hate to admit this, but I've had women tell me that they hate their children because they can't afford them. And I know this is true because that's the household I grew up. I knew that all I was to my parents was another mouth to feed. And no matter what, they kept having children. You can't afford them, but they're a byproduct of getting it on. So you grow up in a household where no one likes you. And that really changes your perspective on your entire life. Growing up in a place where you know your parents are going to a job they don't like. Remember, your parents had to go to work too. It's not just you. Your parents had to go to work every single day, getting up early, going to jobs that sucked, but at least they were making it. We're doing the same thing, but we're not making it. And we're working harder than any generation has for the lowest wages that have ever been offered in the history of this country. We're in the worst possible place that you could imagine, and everyone's telling us on TV that everything's fine. Well, that's not true. When your rent has has quadrupled since you've been renting and trying to live on your own. There was actually one particular story of a lady who said that she looked like she was in her mid-30s. She's never lived by herself, and roommates were the worst thing that she's ever experienced. And it's true. I don't care how much you like your roommates. No one wants to live with other people. We all want to live alone so we can sit in the dark and no one questions why we're sitting in the dark, why we're depressed, why we never leave the house, why we're like this. Because that's the reality of things. No one wants to be judged by another person in the same room staring at you while you're sharing a living room, a bathroom, a toilet. That's probably the hardest part about having to have roommates, is having to walk into the bathroom and look at your own toilet and wonder what that stain is, because it's truly disgusting. All right, let's get into our final talking point. If adulthood had a slogan, it would be work until you're too tired to live so you can afford to live just enough to go back to work. It's kind of a little convoluted there. Work until you're too tired to live so you can afford to live just enough to go back to work. It's Sunday afternoon. You guys are probably going to watch this midweek next week. By then, I would have returned to work and told you that I'm not looking forward to going back to work tomorrow morning. A big part of my being right now is telling me it's not good for you. It's not good for your future. It's not good for your present. Work, and I'm talking about work in general. It's not good for you. And these corporations will claim that, well, we have this wellness program, right? A lot of corporations send out this newsletter every week on how you can do yoga or manage your stress through meditation, or here's a cozy recipe, or just take a walk to help reduce your stress. How is taking a walk going to put more money into my pocket? How is any advice that you give to any sort of wellness program that you have going to help people that are suffering the indignity of being employed? Because at the end of the day, the only reason that we work is so that we don't starve. Primal. It's a very, very primal. We don't want to starve and we don't want to live outside with all the crazy homeless people because they're out there. When you look at a person that's completely lost it, they've been on the street too long, they're suffering from either the cold or the heat, and they don't know whether or not they're going to survive day to day. That is one of the most traumatizing things you will ever experience as an adult. And it is a very real place where 1 million people, possibly even more, are living right now. And they can't just close their eyes and say, you know what, I don't want this. It's the reason why those people are out there are called junkies. Because can you imagine having to face that reality every day? That every day could be your last if something bad happens to you while you're out there? I still think about that girl that I saw at Walmart in full expeditionary mode with her giant backpack, her tent, her water can, her sleeping bag, and nowhere to go. And again, 20 years old, still, I would consider a person that's above a normal attractiveness. Everything had to go wrong for her to end up in that situation because she obviously had expensive camping gear. And instead of going camping with her gear, she has to be homeless in that gear. That should frighten all of you. Anyone who's watching this video and listening to me right now your rear end should be clutching up, having to witness a person that had to take their camping equipment and move out onto the street with it. It's to me, I don't know. I don't think I'll ever, every time that I park in that parking lot, I'm going to remember watching her walk away and go and sit down outside of the public library and eat a banana. Just a frightening scenario. All right, let's close out here. And I think what's really breaking people isn't the money itself. It's realizing that no matter how hard we're trying, the finish line keeps getting pushed further and further away. We're chasing the carrot. But anytime that we get too close to the carrot, it moves away. And when you finally get too close to the carrot, you realize that there was never anything on the end of that string. Chasing the American dream has always been chasing the American lottery. And it's 100% true because no matter how many times I go to the grocery store, every single time I'm there, I'm watching people playing the lottery, buying scratchers tickets. In fact, there was a line today. There was 3 people standing in line today to buy scratchers tickets. And I'm just like, you could use that money to buy food. Instead, you're just going to throw it away, believing that somehow luck is going to change in your favor and you won't have to experience another day like this. You do everything right, everything they told you, work hard, go to college, grind, hustle, and somehow you're still choosing between dinner and gas every night of the week. And that was the conversation I had with the cashier as I was checking out. She's one of these people. She graduated from college. She went overseas for a few years. It didn't work out, and she had to come back to America. And now she's working a minimum wage in a grocery store as a college graduate. The Don't let the irony kick you in the rear. Because every day that I think about coming out of school in 2017 and the only job I could find was working in retail, which was the job that I had before I went to school. Now being a highly educated person stuck in a system where you can't find work beyond the minimum wage. And it leaves you scratching your head. It makes you question your reality. And it makes you wonder who would create a system where nearly everyone failed. And that's a really simple answer. And both you and I know that the rich are public enemy number one.